Yo, how are you doing, folks? Welcome to episode 80 of the Simpa Life Podcast. We are nearly there to our first century, many more centuries to come. And you know what it is? We're already starting to level up our guests. I have been promising you a surprise UK guest for a while now. This is a wonderful lady that I met at Product Earth. Again, shout out to the legends that are Product Earth. Just last year, and has been on a fantastic journey since. And I must admit, I didn't know quite as much as I thought I did until I sat to do my research. As usual with this podcast, one of the main benefits of actually doing this means I get to spend a couple of hours away on the internet looking into the backgrounds of people and sort of building a list of questions. So yeah, we've got quite a few for today's guest, who is a broadcaster. Got that right, change my notes. founder and editor of The Frank magazine, which is a lifestyle magazine that supports women and fights for the health of the planet. And we'll get into more of that sort of in a bit. She has also recently become an ambassador for MedCan Support. Big shout out to Matt and the team at MedCan. You will find a link to Matt's episode below in the description and in the bio, folks. So do check that out. She's recently also been diagnosed with ADHD and autism. She is Melanie Sykes. How are you doing, Melanie?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm a little bit over-caffeinated, which is why I tripped over myself a couple of times there.
I didn't even notice that. I'm off the caffeine. It literally is it's poison for anybody that's ADHD, darling. So. Oh
yeah, I've kind of weaponized, I guess, anxiety throughout my career, really. You know, and it's one of those drugs that I guess. Well, we've known for a while that people that are neurodivergent typically have in the Venn diagram of drug consumers quite a large crossover. And I think caffeine is one of those ones that we forget. Because I mean, yeah, some days I'll smash in 10 cups and be like, oh, my chest, I can't. I'm like, what is wrong? What's wrong? I'll sit down and have a coffee and I'll calm down. And I'm drinking it going, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? It's the weirdest kind of feeling. And then like days like today, yeah, someone will remind me and I'll go, yeah, you're right. You're really right. As I'm drinking coffee.
I know. Well, listen, I think coffee is probably the last sort of addiction that, mind you, every time I get rid of one addiction, another one pops up. It's just the way it is, isn't it? But I'm definitely trying to get off that because it just makes me feel like shit. And I'm already such a doer. I'm constantly buzzing with ideas and what I need to do and all that. And coffee it works completely against me. So as much as I like the taste of it, it's got to go. I'm actually on the chamomile tea an awful lot since I got my ADHD diagnosis. It's been a really interesting time. I can't even begin to tell you. So the autism diagnosis made sense to me. And I worked it all out and looked at all, and I'm still processing that. But the ADHD I've only known for about 3 or 4 weeks, and that is, I'm so grateful for that diagnosis. I really am.
How was sort of your life changed? Obviously, there was a bit of a time between the two diagnoses. It's interesting that they often come comorbid, that they're often diagnosed to get together. So yeah. How have you found sort of the changes? A lot of people find that a diagnosis suddenly allows them things to click into place and go, and all of these kind of events and scenarios and situations kind of make sense in the context of that new information. Have you found that?
Oh my God. I mean, that's all I've found. That's all I've found is basically, ultimately myself. And I'm writing a book about all of this, and obviously the more days that pass and the more self-care that I perform, the closer I get to who I actually am. And both these diagnoses, I think is how you say it, are bring me back to self, you know. And it's also been quite, I don't know if you're a spiritual person, Simpa, but it's also been a very spiritual awakening for me simultaneously, actually. And it's been really hard too. I mean, there's been a lot of tears. So the reason why I had the diagnosis, what do you call it? Well, the assessments separately is because of money. Basically, I just didn't have the money to do both of them together. I had to wait until I had a bit more cash so I could go back and do the other, because I did it privately because I wanted to know ASAP, which is, again, just the way I am. So as soon as it was suggested to me that I possibly could be on the spectrum and very much an ADHD person, I just wanted to go pursue that, because I'm always like that with everything. If somebody gives me a good idea, I run with it, because why sit on a good idea?
Yeah, I suppose if people want to look back, I suppose at your life, you've always been an incredibly active person. When I looked at I suppose they call it filmography still, but it's for broadcasting. And I looked at the sheer amount of shows that you've sort of been on with Des O'Connor.
And those are the ones I said yes to. There's more I said no to. There's more that I said no to than I agreed to do. People don't really know that, because I've always been really bloody picky as well. And because the minute I do something that isn't really fundamentally authentic to me, you can tell I've got zero poker face, which again, I probably is very much about me being autistic and ADHD. I just can't fake it, so whenever I've done anything where I'm not quite believing it, you can tell. So what's the point in doing it?
Well, no, I get that, and it's interesting. Then, as we was just sort of highlighting before about that clearer understanding and that clarity into yourself, is that I suppose then with this new understanding with the diagnoses, it kind of life makes a bit more sense. I mean, I'll sort of share with my audience. I mean, some people know this a bit more personally to me, is that I'm unfortunately going through NHS assessment, which is far longer. I mean, the waiting list, I think, is approximately 3 years that I'm currently on for assessment for autism spectrum diagnoses. I mean, I'm lucky that the ADHD has been rushed in that I was previously diagnosed as a youth. Good. So they've allowed some sort of intersectionality there, and they're kind of trying to break it down. So they're at least moving forward with it. The issue that I'm finding currently is ironic and paradoxical, firstly, given who I am and given the nature of our reality, in that I'm currently being kind of denied treatment for ADHD, or the really obfuscating wanting to address that because of my substance use, as is quoted in their literature, when the cannabis that I'm using is mitigating and managing these conditions. But until I get the diagnoses, then I wouldn't be able to get cannabis to be prescribed for those conditions. So it's this horrible catch-22 that there are a multitude of people in this country. I was really surprised when I looked at the statistics on this. They reckon there's somewhere in about 1 million adults between diagnosed and undiagnosed in this country that have autism.
Because of self-medication with cannabis, or just generally?
Well, they've said it's sort of a history of drug use. I'll admit, I'll hold my hands up. Anyone that's listening to my programs, I'm being very open with my youth, you know what I mean? But that's not the way that I am in this current manifestation of myself as an individual. But it is, entirely because I illicitly use cannabis. So themselves see it as it's a substance. Whereas, again, if this cannabis was then prescribed, it's a medication. So you can't prejudice a medication, but you can prejudice self-medication. So it's one of these things that just creates this backlash.
But nobody gives a fuck if it's booze.
That's the irony of it, though, is that most sort of people will mask predominantly a neurodivergent type, I don't want to say disorder, but condition maybe is a much better way of describing it, but probably not as scientific. But what I mean by that is that the spectrum of individuals, we fall towards, like I said at the start with that Venn diagram, we fall towards a substance. So we find something that matches, whether it slows us down or it speeds us up, whether it brings us out of ourselves, puts us into ourselves. It does something for us. We self-regulate and understand that, when I eat this food, that makes me feel good. And I'm a bit la, 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 la. If we can have that relationship with that part of nature, for me, it's very frustrating and paradoxical that we can't also at least have the acceptance that we can, even if it's not illegal, but we can have the acceptance that others will formulate those relationships, and not always are they negative.
Well, I mean, I myself want to pursue getting some access to medical cannabis. Because I am suffering with anxiety. I know that it would help me just open my neural pathway so that I can process better what is happening with me and to me on a daily basis. I've experienced it and I know that it works for me, but it's micro dosing. But obviously I've got to try and get it as a prescription, and I'm hoping that I can get some help with that, because I'm as an autistic person also, I'm extremely sensitive to chemicals, so I can't take prescription drugs anyway. I don't take any prescription drugs, even when I was a young girl and I went on the pill. I couldn't take it. It made me feel awful to have like these fake hormones. Every time I'm sick, I can't have what would be prescribed. I always have to find an alternative route because it absolutely affects me in the most awful ways. But anything natural just works.
Yeah, you have almost a sensitivity to it, and I think that's obviously something on the ASD, I suppose, we'll use as an acronym because it's easy to say, autism spectrum disorder. Again, there's arguments about disorder. That's not my language, that's theirs, but I'm just going to use it because it's currently the correct language.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
absolutely.
yes, so basically, there is a sensitivity. There is, unfortunately, in the media, and I think this is one of the things that I'm grateful to see you challenging in predominantly quite a lot in the red top press, which are often very harsh on anything that isn't, air quotes, normal, neurotypical, isn't, well, this is British, this is what we define, and this is what it is. So there's often been this backlash and this almost a negative representation of neurodivergent individuals, that they are either brilliant at math, or somebody drops something and all of a sudden they count the objects, or these really weird quirks that are not representative of the majority of people with autism.
Yeah, I mean, I know already it's helping a lot of people just by my diagnosis alone, because obviously I've been masking a lot throughout my life to survive. I realize that now, because what's interesting about me is that she says, I'm not saying I'm interesting. I'm just saying, obviously my career is at odds with actually the nature of me as a human being. I'm actually a very sort of contemplative person. I like to be one-on-one with people. I don't like big crowds. I'll be very quiet and listening when there's a group of people talking, but I wouldn't chip in. You know, I've seen you speak at that event last year, and you're very comfortable in front of a crowd and you hold court in such a fantastic way. I can only really do that if I'm in conversation with someone. Like, I can't do public speaking. And obviously I've spent 20 odd years in TV studios, in front of cameras, in front of live audiences, with light shining in my face, on live broadcasts that can trip you up left, right, and centre. And also people's energies affect me. You know, I can sense love, hate, lust, anger from any it's just, I walk in a room and it all bloody hits me, and it's exhausting. And I didn't even know that was happening to me. I didn't even know that was I didn't know that those sensitivities were my autism, me. And so I would, you know, sometimes I would drink to just not at work. I never drank at work. But if I was in a social situation, I would have a few drinks to sort of settle in and relax enough to be there. And then obviously go over the top and take it too far, because obviously third glass of wine, you start feeling, you know, fucking invincible. And then you take it too far, and then you make more mistakes. I made more mistakes. So it's been a horrible sort of, it's been a battle. It's been so painful and difficult not knowing why all these things, why I felt the way I felt, and why these things kept happening to me. And why I was so different to a lot of people in the industry that I was in, because people would say to me, you need to get a thicker skin by now. You've been doing it over 25 years. What's happened to your thick skin? You've got to build one. Well, no, I can't build one. My nerves are on the outside. This is who I am. I'm not a stage school. I didn't want to be here. I fell into it. I need to pay the rent and feed my kids. I'm going to continue to do that. It's obvious I would continue to do that, but at great personal cost, mental health cost, for sure. Yeah. So I no longer want to be part of that and no longer will be. But my profile is high, which is brilliant, which means I can start helping with causes like people getting medical cannabis.
I'll correct you on the language of that.
Yeah, no, do, because I do that with
prescription. Or medicinal is medical use of. It's a subtle difference, but it's a battle that and a hill I'm willing to die on. But yeah, and I think it's amazing that you're in the position to champion.
Yeah, no, thank you for correcting me. It's like autism at the moment. I'm in this new realm and I keep saying things that people are like, no, it's not that. And I'm just, I'll get there eventually. Also, I've got a terrible memory as well. So I get told things and I forget again. So forgive me.
No, entirely. It's something that came up as you were talking through that. And again, I think it's the search for self. It's the curiosity of who we are. And you speak of it eloquently again, you didn't go to broadcasting through your traditional route, as I quipped on at the start of this of us both being Northerners, and us saying, all right, and sort of as we introduced quite privately, that plus, I guess, then this outsider feeling to a certain way, then you having this experience of people saying, get the stick of skin, you're like, well, why don't I belong? Had you previously considered autism? And because you speak of the empathy, one of the reasons that drove me away from the idea of autism is the literature that I had read, the perception that I had seen for a long time was a lack of empathy. Mm-hmm. And it just didn't make sense. And so I was like, that's not me, then that doesn't fit me. I'm like, I'm so empathetic, I die every time I go anywhere, because I get the same thing. If I see an injustice, if I see something, I'll crash a car to save a squirrel. I'm an idiot. I can't help it. So I'm so emotionally led that then my brain has to kick in and I go, don't do it. I'm like, what? The thing your heart's telling you to do. And I'm like, crap. I'll simply like instinct will go and do something. It's those kind of intelligences. And it's once I kind of heard it from a therapist of explaining like, well, ignore your trauma for a minute. And I went, well, that's a hell of a wheelbarrow of shit to ignore. Let's park that over there. And okay, hypothetically, let's do this. And she taught me through this sort of series of events. And if I hadn't have had the upbringing that I had, and sort of the expulsion from schools, all of the abuse, etc., that it probably would have been picked up, especially as a young male. The fact that they'd already gained ADHD quite early, that if I'd have stayed in mainstream or at least in some form of primary care, that it would have been identified.
How old are you, by the way? Because I think age is kind of interesting in terms of the timeline of autism, and it's, it being, looked at in, because obviously, yeah.
I was going to say, I'm 34 years young this year.
Okay, good. Because obviously my 17-year-old is autistic. And when I first realized that he was autistic, there really wasn't much, it wasn't really talked about massively as far as I knew. It wasn't out there in the mainstream. And so finding my way was interesting. But again, like you say, the list was not being empathetic, not seeing the signs, whereas Tino was, he was empathetic. I just thought, well, he would, if I was upset about something, he would definitely notice and ask me if I was okay, and also, like you say, it's just this ultra sensitivity to absolutely everything from sound to people's energies. So, and just ultra empathy is autism.
In a way, I think so. And this is kind of one of the arguments that's developing in, I suppose, modern, let's call it anthropological philosophy. I don't know if it's a school of thought, but I guess it kind of is. Basically philosophizing on human culture, society, and the construct of it. And they're asking the questions of why is autism more prevalent? So to give you an idea, in the UK, I've got a little note somewhere on my desk.
Yeah.
Pre-prepared here, folks. It's a tiny piece of paper, so a few scribbles on it. But in 1998 in the UK, there were just over 3,000 diagnosed cases of, cases. Again, the language is really rough here, so I apologize to anybody who really understands the fine nuance of this. But yeah, 3,000 diagnoses of autism in 1998. That now stands or was stood at 65,000 in 2018. So there has been a measurable jump. And then the two schools of thought are, one is people are being made autistic, and the other is no. We understand autism more. So
yeah, well,
we
we just understand it. It's as simple as that. It's just we understand it more now. That's you can't create it.
Yeah, well, this is what you said of then is empathy, then autism, and it's the part of that school of thought is this idea that we're pathologizing human behavior because it doesn't fit in the modern life. Like empathy doesn't work very well for business. Doesn't quite help, the quarterly profits or get, that.
Yeah, but they're misguided. That's a very misguided and old school view, because when you have people, well, I know you do, but for me, if everybody in society, in work, at home, out there in life, actually living their authentic selves and learning to be, what's the word? Just inclusive, the world would be a better place and more productive. People would be doing what they were meant to do. People would be doing what they were born to do instead of what they're crowbarred into thinking. School is the factory for that, which leaves people cast out of society because, it's education and the way it's run, and specifically the way it is run now, it's sort of lost on that age group when we're trying to find ourselves. We should be being encouraged to find ourselves at 15 and 16, not being crowbarred into what is supposed to be the right fit. It's just antiquated bollocks. I know that I would have found, I'm a really creative person, but I wasn't encouraged to be creative. Mm-hmm. I probably kept it to myself, having not been encouraged to do it, and ended up, luckily for me, I ended up being a model because I did not know what I wanted to do when I left school. I wasn't equipped. I was young. I'd done really, really sort of averagely at my O levels and whatever. Anyway, I started modeling. But ultimately, I'm a writer. I'm an artist. I can paint, I can draw. I'm like loads of things that I didn't pursue, but I'm pursuing them now. But I'm 51, Simpa. It's like more than half my life has already gone and been not wasted. Nothing is wasted. I think all the pain and suffering and all the things I've been exposed to give me great wisdom, I do believe, to help other people. And that is what my mission will be going forward, and is already happening. But all I'll say is I would have loved to have been a happier person in the last 50 years. And I haven't been. I've had bouts of depression. I've had bouts of alcohol abuse. I've been in abusive relationships. I've attracted gaslighters and fucking liars because I had no sense of self. And the diagnosis gives me back me, and it makes me study what those things are to me. It's also reconnected me to my son. So for 17 years, I've had an autistic child. I've been trying to understand his sensitivities and work out all his needs and be there for him and protect him in a world where I am known. So I've had a whole toxic whirlwind around being a parent as well. And my diagnosis absolutely made me understand Valentino in a way that I couldn't have done if I wasn't diagnosed myself. Because once I understood it properly, internally, what it means for me. Now, I told him, I do go off on one, and it's my ADHD as well, so apologize.
Quite all right. This is the point of the platform, so do.
No, continue. It is, but I'm very aware that I do sort of take over sometimes, so I'm just announcing that yeah. But just to say that I told Valentino that I'd just been diagnosed with autism, and all he had to say to me was, well, that's very interesting. And it is very interesting. And and I've noticed lately that he's hanging out with me a lot more than he used to, and he's sharing with me a lot more than he used to. And I guess he feels like now I'm one of his tribe. Even though I'm his mother, I think he sees me slightly differently. And it's such a beautiful thing. And I would live and die for those children, as you do when you're a parent. But there's something about the vulnerability of an autistic person that needs protecting. And I feel like I want to do that en masse. It's like my heart's desire.
that
to
empathy
do that
again.
en masse. Huh?
That's that empathy again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can't help it. I can't help it, and I don't want to get rid of it either.
No, should you? Because it is you.
Because it is me. And I think that over the years, I think people have wanted to diminish my power in a way. I've witnessed it, and but I won't let it in anymore, you know. I mean, it's gotten to the point now where if anybody comes in and dysregulates me or deregulates me or whatever the bloody wording is, they're out. I can't have it anymore. I've had too many people crash into my life and my boundaries and unravel me because I've wanted to help them. Because it's an instinct to want to help people, like you described about you crash a car to save a squirrel.
It's like it's like breathing. It's quite difficult, I think, to explain to someone who doesn't have a heightened sense of empathy that it is. I don't know. It's like a first responder instinct. It's you don't know what you're doing, and I guess this is one of the reasons I guess I weaponize my anxiety with caffeine and probably sometimes with cannabis. Sometimes depending on the cultivars, of keeping myself in a state of heightened awareness, because then I feel that I'm meeting that desire, that internal need, and even though it's often not required, it feels purposeful. It feels meaningful. It feels that I have done my duty in some small way of the imaginary superhero of Simpa of each day, just walking through life like, what do we need, citizens? And it is just this weird, and I can't describe, and it's nice to describe it to another human being. And obviously this is a very public conversation. Hi folks out there, I appreciate this. You've slowly got to know me over all of these episodes in my career, if you want to call it, of talking shit into a camera. But yeah, I struggle massively as I've tried to indicate.
Yeah, you see, I don't think you're talking shit in front of a camera. I think I've talked shit in front of a camera because I've been in the entertainment industry. So give yourself a break. At least you didn't do that.
Yeah, I suppose there's still time. But yeah, it's interesting because it's one of those things that I've often been asked why I do what I do. I've impoverished myself. I've gone bankrupt and jeopardized my home, jeopardized loved ones, relationships, family for this cause and this fight. And I can't describe it other than it's wrong. I can do something. I don't know what the something is, even if it's like putting the corner piece on the jigsaw of the grand picture that solves the solution. You know what I mean? I don't have any delusions of grandeur that I'm the man that's going to change the world. But I believe that by consistently pointing at the thing and reminding people this isn't right, again, it's feeding that. And I sleep well. That's the thing I care for. As long as I sleep well at night, I don't care if people think I'm weird, if they think I'm unusual, if they think I'm an idiot or whatever else. It doesn't matter their opinions of me. What matters to me is that I felt I've lived my purpose each day. And that journey, that's the spiritual journey I have. I'm not religious. I've had more than enough psychedelic experiences and entheogenic experiences to define God as being the vibration of existence, the fact that we have ears to hear, eyes to see, we have words to communicate, we have a air to breathe. That is the manifestation of God. And I don't ascribe it to any pre-existing deity. It is everything. It is within us,
Yeah. I'm very much in that way of thinking as well, in that you're a soul, that your soul needs to dance, it needs to sing, it needs to be authentic, it needs to help, it needs what it needs, and you have to feed it. It is as simple as that. And the problem is that we are constantly, every time we step out the door, asked to suppress our internal desires. And it's nothing short of brutal. And what people do is they become angry, and they certainly become angry with people that won't toe the party line. It's there's everybody's walking around out there so wounded. I became agoraphobic during the pandemic, because actually when the pandemic happened, we were all locked up, obviously, and I fucking loved it, Simpa. It was like, oh my God, I always wanted to be at home. I never wanted to be out there. This is amazing. Obviously, people were dying and it was horrendous, and I know all that. But personally, just as a human being, I was happy to not have to go and tap dance for money. I was happy to just be with my children, cook, and be a natural person and read and just do the thing that I like to do, which is lie around and think a lot, And I have struggled to get back out there. One, because I had a load of shit last year from people coming into my life again and fucking me over. Then I was diagnosed with autism, which was one of the greatest gifts. But having to do the work and going into therapy with an autistic woman and really to get into the bottom of all my deep, dark shames and all of my wounding, and because I was juggling a million and one things, I had a nervous breakdown. I was emotionally and physically fucked. And it happened in quite a big way in January. And I was with somebody I trusted who helped me out of it and got me breathing and got me back into the room. And then the process has begun. And I am slowly, and also I've now had an injury. So that has brought me back down a peg or two as well, which is really helpful, because even the injury for me is the universe telling me, okay, you slowed down a bit, but you didn't fucking slow down enough. So I'm having to really take time. So I'm venturing out, little trips here, and I'm exercising that muscle of my social life. And it's I went out the other day and somebody crashed into a boundary as soon as I walked out of the door. I purely went to get my nails done the other day because I needed somebody to take care of me, because this is like so painful. And the girl that was doing my nails was so rude. She kept pulling my arm. She was tutting at me every time my hand twitched, because it has been twitching recently because I've not been using the tendons properly, I guess. And and I just said to her, don't talk to me like I'm a child. You know, everybody's angry. Everybody's ready to fucking bite. And there's no peace out there for me. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really, I know this is very, well, I don't know if it is off topic or not, but people are really fucked up, man. People are walking wounded out there.
That's exactly the way to describe it, is the walking wounded, because there is a war being waged, and it's a class war ultimately. And it's not even just a class war. Part of the class war is, I guess, a war against neurodiversity. Look at the construct of society. Look at the way that paths are built. Look at the way that shops are built. Look at the way that entertainment, look at all of the way that services are provided. They are at the base of the bell curve of human experience. And every year that bell curve gets smaller and smaller. And the group of people that are served by society gets smaller. And the wealth concentrates into a smaller hand of people. So yeah, people have less access to service. They see less representation of themselves. For all, we're seeing an explosion of diversity in media. It's been weaponized and created in such a fake way that we see through it. It's not genuine representations of the true diversity of our communities, the true diversity of our hearts, of our relationships, of our love. We care far more for people that are different to us than are the same as us, because the differences we see are so nuanced that the majority of people don't really bother to engage with them. They want to know, like, how's the kids? You know, how's the wife? You know, how's it going? It's not necessarily just surface level. There are deeper relationships where people really care for each other, but we're almost trained now not to have those interactions. They're a waste of time. It's against the hustle of culture. You could be spending that time earning money. Why formulate relationships that are not going to benefit you in a business sense or in a financial sense? And that, I guess, separates people, that if you then don't have the ability to go out and make money and therefore expand your social, your economic, your familial bubble, then yeah, you get very bitter and isolated. And I think then it metastasizes like cancer in our culture in huge areas, that then just starting to warp politics. And politics is the worst manifestation of this, because it hasn't represented humanity in this country for decades.
Oh no, I mean, I was going to say, I mean, I've turned the TV off. I was glued to the news for years and years and years. But the way in which we're obviously and so transparently being taken the piss out of by those wankers, those privileged wankers who think that one rule for them, one rule for everybody else. I mean, and the people that still support them, I'm worried about the people that still support their suppressors. I wonder what that is about.
It's kind of like a mass Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm
in a lot of ways. Because remember, an abusive relationship, your abuser will say, no one will ever love you. No one will ever take care of you like I do. No one will ever live with you. You'll never take care of yourself. That's that, like gaslighting that I don't want to take party politics into persuasion here, but if you take New Labour as what they actually were and one of Margaret Thatcher's best projects, we've had a Tory government for effectively 4 decades in this country,
100%.
based on the idea of privatization, individual failures are what constitute your lack of social mobility. They then state that if you've got depression because you look around the world and in the world you live in this country and you hate everything about it, that's your fault. Go get a better job, go do better. Everything is put down to the individual when it's the state's responsibility to build the apparatus in which we live. It makes me think of Bruce K. Alexander and Rat Park. So this wonderful, I think it was Canadian psychiatrist came up with a counter to the argument of addiction, which was they presented the addiction model as you put a rat in a cage with water and cocaine and water, 90% of the rats are going to kill themselves on the drug water. And so they were saying that's the rat's fault and they're hardwired to take the drug. And Bruce K. Alexander went, no, if you change the environment, almost all the rats will try the cocaine water. But if they've got friends, if they've got family, if they can, like fornicate, if they can eat, if they've got bedding and stimulation, they'll avoid the drugs so much. And that then is applicable to us as a culture, politically, but also us in terms of neurodivergent and neurotypical people, that we don't have our stimulation. We don't have, I don't know if I'm autistic. I don't know. All I know is I'm waiting to be seen, to be analyzed by somebody, because that is the nature of the beast. But I feel an affinity towards.
What triggered you wanting to get an assessment, by the way? What was the trigger?
I've been in and out of therapy and psychoactive care since I was about 6 years old.
Right.
And I was diagnosed with BPD, borderline personality disorder. And
okay.
I then, after a self-bout of about 5 years of celibacy, went to then get into a relationship with my best friend at the time. And me and her, I was worried about, how BPD affects the relationship, and sought then care from the system, and was placated and played off again, drug user and everything else, because I've made a career out of fighting for people's right to self-medicate with whatever works for them. And I will continue to do it, because I've seen it work time and time and time again. I've lived its experience time and time again. So it's this the frustration of it then led to a conversation with a healthcare professional who actually didn't see the drug prejudice. She was the first one I spoke to in probably a decade in a number of services around the county that actually kind of went, I hear what you're saying about drugs. That's over there. Okay, that's cool. Yeah. That's cool. She actually, I think, even said that you clearly know more than I do on the subject, which was humbling and nice to hear, honestly. And then we went on to have this discussion again, where if you put your trauma over here, and again, I had a very abusive, violent, horrible upbringing, which meant I was removed from mainstream education. I was kind of failed by a majority of systems, blah, blah, blah. There's quite a lot of trauma and shit there. But so yes, that's what I was on about the wheelbarrow shit before. So yeah, we parked that.
Of course. Well, to be honest, we've all got it in varying degrees.
The human condition is suffering in that sense. And that's, I guess, what we need to identify as well, as again, back to that bell curve. There is no perfect upbringing, folks. There is no childhood without trauma. There is no human existence in this current paradigm without some form of maladaptive behavior.
You can pretend and you can fake it and you can buy your way. You think you can buy out of trauma, but you can't. And how many times has it been said that money doesn't buy you happiness yet? But most, I don't know a lot of young sort of 20-somethings, but I know people are chasing the dollar the whole time. They think by having that Porsche Jeep, they're going to find salvation and happiness. And it's just unbelievable that that's still a mindset. I do think the young people coming through now who care about the environment, I think things are changing. I think my generation, certainly, they're not lost causes. Nobody's a lost cause, but I think the young people that are coming through now into adulthood, the 18, 19, 20-year-olds, I think they will make some good changes. I do think that they're worried about their futures.
Hey, you got us a lot in the middle. We're still trying, but we're suffering under Thatcherism, the weaponization of neoliberalism. We have seen the creation of the internet, the most powerful tool. We were the last generation to transition from analog to digital. And we've seen the downfall of our culture, how fast the big tech, the organized entities with their maladaptive intentions of social social have infested.
What's maladaptive? What does maladaptive mean?
Maladaptive is sort of a bad sort of an event, not an event, but like something that occurs that shouldn't have occurred, that it's a negative response to something almost.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That
Okay.
it's an adaptation, but not a good adaptation. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. I like that.
I can't remember what mal stands for as a prefix. I might include that in a dictionary link in the link
Yeah,
below,
man, do it.
I do love exploring language. I probably actually got the definition wrong there, but I do believe that is the context in which I was using it.
Okay, fine. Well, I have to pick up on things because if I don't understand, I have to say.
But that's the curiosity of it. And again, this is one of the things that I think neurotypical people. I don't want to create a divide.
No, don't, because can I just interject just real quick, because my therapist was talking to me the other day, and she didn't say neurotypical, she said non-neurodivergent, because neurotypical and neurodivergent does create like a bit of a fucking divide, and we don't want that. Yeah. Nobody wants that. We want to live in harmony. We want non-divergent people, neurodivergent people, to understand where we're coming from, so we can live together and thrive together and understand each other. And that's the point.
I think, and I agree entirely with the false binaries. That's again what I've spent the past couple of years fighting within the cannabis fight. I think the way I kind of look at it is that bell curve, and it's a spectrum. Everything is a fluctuating spectrum, whether it be sort of sexuality, whether it be, even for some people are going to hate this, gender identity, whether it be political persuasion, whether it be, football teams support, whatever else it is. Everything in our life fluctuates. Everything changes at some points. There is new stimuli, new data. We reconfigure that in our brain and we change and adapt. You can obviously then input other stimuli that actually causes neurogenesis or neuroplasticity, so the development of new neurological pathways and new novel thoughts, which is why people often have a psychedelic or entheogenic experience and then come back quite different, as it were, because the brain has had all these different experiences. And I think that one of the things I worry about with autism and ADHD and any of these pathologized mental health conditions is the pigeonhole. Right, you're locked in this box now. That's you for 50 years. Go away. You're done. And it's like, no, it'll change in a week or a month. Even learning that you've had that, you'll meet different criteria than prior to knowing that information. Everything is quantum and changes with that input. And I think our mental health system doesn't understand that. They go, right, you're depressed. Book says first pills, SSRI, this one. Take that, you're done. 6 months
because
come
nobody
back,
wants...
second pill, come back, third pill, come back.
Yeah. Nobody wants to get to the root of the cause. Nobody wants to get to the root of the trauma, because it takes too long, and also there's money at stake, and it's easy to just medicate people, isn't it? It's just easy to keep medicating people.
As you've said, though, that we'd be as more authentic selves, that we would be more creative, more productive, and instead of just people then working, no offense to anybody, an assembly line job for 50 years or whatever, that we would have the option that while you've got that youth, you would do an active job and it would help with whatever. Then as your health changes, your age requirements change, your familial requirements change, then life would change with that. It seems that we haven't built a society that's fair for that. Like you said, we create this standardized education system that now is far more based on a ranking and hierarchical structure. And then that's your position of handicap. Then the firing pistol goes and you set off into the world. And then the ones that were set with a minus handicap, and then it's your fault, catch up, come on, catch up the whole way, made them feel bad, until now as adults, the majority of them, which is 2 in 100 adults in the UK are diagnosed, which is twice what is in children, 1 in 100. So they're now starting to recognize far more in the adult population autism, and they're recognizing more and more this narrative, these anecdotes of people saying, I struggled at school with focus, or I struggled with XYZ, and it's not because of a lack of intellect. It's often because of a higher emotional intellect. It's because they're so attuned to everything else. They're having to mask, which is a term for anyone that doesn't sort of understand. Masking is sort of a way of taking on and embodying typical emotions and responses of others as a way to hide what you feel are your own unique, or often from a negative inclination, your own weird, and I say that in your own sort of internal monologue kind of way, responses to things. And people often then end up masking for so long that by the time they get into adulthood, that's almost who they are. They identify so much with the facade that
you do. And I don't think I did in my case. I was constantly scratching my head. I kept thinking, why am I a walking contradiction? I kept feeling like I was living two, three, four lives even, really, because I would change. You know, I'd be different when I was with my family. I'd be different when I was at work. I would be up against all sorts of bullshit at work, but not want to say anything because I didn't want to lose my job. And I mean, there's being a woman as well in a patriarchal society, and a vulnerable autistic woman to boot, has not been easy. I've suffered loads of terrible things during my time, and I've not been able to. I've not been supported, and it's been really, really challenging, to say the least.
Yeah, I bet. I can't imagine, but I bet. You know, I'm sat here as cisgendered white male. I'm doing well, baby. I say that society's changing. That was entirely a joke, for anyone who's going to take that too seriously in the comments below. How do you feel the microcosm of celebrity? How do you feel that affected? Because as you say, the intersectionality of then living as a woman in a patriarchal society, especially one quite as institutionally so as Britain, and then having this neural divergency that you didn't quite understand, but then also literally having people flashing cameras in you, chasing you, trying to get salacious stories about you, and having that, that magnifying glass on you.
Well, I think what the question is what I want to talk about is actually the media and how they operate. That is a very misogynistic narrative. It's written by women half the time, but obviously the body that is the media is a patriarchal, misogynistic message that continues to be churned out, and it turns women against women. It keeps men feeling all powerful, and it's a tool to oppress, for sure it is. I've understood it in my way, in the way that I've been written up as. I mean, when I first got into the industry, it was Melanie Sykes man-eater. They used to actually call me a man-eater, and I'm not an aggressor. I'm not a predator on men. I'm not. I never have been. But it's been very much like that until I got married. When I got married, and they were like, okay, she's got a husband now, we can't attack him so much now. They left me alone for 7 years, but the minute that marriage was over, it was all back again. And it's the way they describe you, the way they twist your life, the way they watch you and take your privacy away from you. And then people accuse you of setting up photographs because you look good in the photographs, but you think you're having private moments, and they're not private moments. And the sickening realization that a beautiful time you were having with somebody was being watched is so disturbing. And it makes you paranoid. If I was to go for a walk with a male friend, it would be, who's this new love interest? And sometimes it would be my gay mate who was married, or sometimes it would be a straight mate who had a girlfriend, and it would cause all sorts of shit. And it's like, I'm just a woman who connects with men, women, everybody. I'm a human being.
But in the media's eyes, you are a single, powerful woman with ability and influence that is dared to not settle down. That is in defiance of the patriarchy is also a Christian construct. Sorry to offend anybody. It's an Orthodox, ultra-Christian construct, really. It is this idea that women are ownership. Men go, you get your career, you then go, have your pick, right? I've got this amount of money. That means I get this selection of women. You step forward. I have that one, throw it, you come out, it's the more money. And that's what they actually believe of this construct. And it's built on this form moralizing that to us is presented as this facade of fuddy-duddiness and don't have sex and no. And they're off blowing coke up hookers' asses. Like, sorry to use the parlance of hooker. I obviously say sex worker, sorry. But you know what I mean? I said that for a fact. The point, it's this juxtaposition. There's an MP just being caught out, Neil, whatever his name was, the Conservative MP, for watching porn twice in the chambers. It just shows, the idea of, these are the moral arbiters. These are our leaders. They set policy and they influence our culture and our society. It's an absurdity that if the media is worth anything, it should observe people that were in the public media and actually go, here's what they do, here's who they actually are, because that's what people are interested in, not weaponizing our interest and curiosity in people that, at least in our own eyes, have achieved more or are on a higher plateau than ourselves socially or economically, class-wise.
Yeah.
We want to look at how the other half live. And actually, there were things that did that quite well with maybe some of the early iterations of reality TV. But then it very quickly became about how can we include as much sex as possible, or the insinuation of, oh, this person said this or did this, and all this just nitty gritty bullshit of humanity. And we just then plastered it all over media. And all of a sudden, like you said, it then became this thing of, well, who's sleeping with who and who's this? It's like, well, I don't give a shit.
I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about anybody's private life. It is their own. I don't judge anybody as long as you're not doing anything that hurts anybody. Do whatever you fucking like. Mm-hmm. But as we've said, I've been vilified for doing exactly what I want, when I want, how I want. Not always has it been right for me, but that's my fucking business.
You're human.
My mistakes are my own. I'm not a role model. I'm a human being. I've had people attack me for training too much and having too much of a good body because it's made somebody's sister have an eating disorder. No, I didn't make your sister have an eating disorder. She's got some problems that you all need to look at. Don't start blaming me because I go to the gym and I'm eating well and therefore I look like that. That's my business. I think I'm being healthy. So that's it. But it's just, I'm not a role model. I'm just a human being trying to survive this fucking crazy, crazy world, and being put out there and vilified and ridiculed and shamed for being a human being is so not right. It not only destroys my existence and my ability to take care of my children and my children's life, because they've got core wounding that we need to tackle, because I was photographed day and night on the school run with 2 children, 1 autistic, and having to keep my shit together when all I wanted to do was scream at these bastards to leave us alone. But then you've got your shot, and then you've had the children observe me losing my rag. So have you any idea how much strength that took for me? Somebody as well who's autistic, who cares deeply about justice and about the truth, because that is another element of my autism, is that I am in pursuit of the truth at all times. And yeah, I've just been in the worst possible industry for me, really, and it's been really brutal. It's been really brutal, but I'm out of it, and I worked my way out of it, and I decided to sort of leave it behind. I'll never ever talk to the tabloid press, because that's another thing. People say, oh, but you wanted to be famous, and oh, you were interviewed for magazines, but you're contracted to do these interviews. You are contracted to do these interviews, and you have no say on how it's twisted. We talked about podcasts. Podcasts are brilliant because they are the source. The press can go off and write everything and pick out sentences that people say and twist it, but people can go back to the source, and that's the beauty of them. Historically, with me, if I've done an interview with a journalist, the source is a tape recorder, a taping of a conversation that nobody ever gets to hear. Yet they'll just pick out the bits and keep perpetuating the myths. Some of those interviews contain me saying to journalists, why are you asking me questions based on lies that have been written about me by your people? Why don't you ask me something new? And it got to the point where I didn't want to give them anything new anyway, because it would be twisted. So I just thought, I'm out. So I'm out the industry and out of that toxic loop. But just to say, forget all me and what's happened to me. I think ultimately the phone, our mobile phones are causing a great deal of pain, and just, I mean, it is not to be underestimated how much that the addiction to the mobile phone is wounding society on such a huge scale. Nobody's present anymore. Everybody's got their heads down. Nobody's looking at the sky. Nobody's looking at the beauty that is around them. I mean, I watched 2 goldfinches in my back garden. I've never seen a goldfinch in my life, and I saw 2 of them in my back garden the other morning. I was like, I had my binoculars out. I was giddy as fuck because I'm present. I don't wake up and look at my phone and start doing this. I go downstairs, I make a cup of tea, I look out on my window. I'm now rebuilding my life. So I don't really give a fuck what people think I am or what their assumptions. I don't give a shit about people's assumptions about me.
Yeah.
No, you will hear something truthful in what I'm fucking saying. And the easiest way to get rid of it, for you to absorb and understand and maybe make some changes, is so much easier to go, well, what the fuck do you know? Well, I know a hell of a lot. I've been through a hell of a lot. Well, and I'm a working class girl who ended up in a crazy industry, who's got herself back out of it and finding my roots again. That's who's talking right now. So you can say what you like. If you don't want to look at yourself and you don't want to make changes that are going to make you happier, that's your lookout. And I don't judge you, but don't judge me, man. Don't judge me. And it's as simple as that, Simpa.
Yeah, no, that's a really good way of putting it. Exactly, that it's classic. You can see you've obviously been studying quite a bit of psychology sort of recently with your diagnoses. That it's classic.
Well, I haven't. This is me. This is how I've always been. I've been in therapy since I was 30. So I've been in therapy for 20. My maths is terrible. 21 years. This is how I am. This is how I speak. Yeah. I've just not been in an arena where I can talk like this. I've not wanted to, because to give this away is to get more twisted shit. Yeah. But when you do a podcast, obviously the source is the source.
Well, again, it comes back to the patriarchy, doesn't it? Of this thing of hysterical woman. You know, how dare she not be measured? How dare she show emotion? And again, it's the pressures of that. I mean, yeah. And so to come back to the thing of, circle back, I'll get there. Of phones for a second, of what you were sort of saying with that people are now so lost of their sense of self that, as Charlie Brooker termed it, the black mirror that we hold in our hands, it darkens our reflection of ourselves. It darkens our sense of identity. It darkens, our hopes and optimisms for the future. So it's then far easier through this form of transference to get offended, triggered in the common parlance of our day by somebody like yourself speaking truth, and then going, "Oh, fuck you, I'll show you in the comments." And smashing away the keyboard. And most people can't identify that mechanism and will go through the majority of their lives not aware to this, because again, the construct of our society states that any of these concepts that we've discussed basically of this podcast thus far are the failings of the individual, that somehow you should have done better, you should have done more, you should have whatever. And the system is so ever creating a new generation of workers and of passive consumers that you're broken. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. You're off the line. You're not being marketed to in advertising. There isn't conversations about your life in the media. There are not films about you. There are not music made for you. You are not popular. You're not relevant. But you know what, folks? There are far fucking more of us than there are of them. Look at the voting numbers. Look at the people that read the papers. Look at all of these statistics falling off a cliff. Look at what's happening with podcasts. Look at what's happening with people like yourself and like Russell Brand, who he took a fucking left turn. He just was going one way in his life and just so hard spun around. I went to see him in Newcastle the other week and was kind of blown away by that's the dude from the movies. That's the dude with the hair and the shoes and the stand up, and was just like, and again, it was such a wonderful reminder that again, everyone is human and everyone is on that spectrum of change.
Absolutely. I mean, he's watching and listening to him over the years has helped me on many levels. He's just he's doing it's like he was doing that, but he's this. I was doing that, but I'm this. My father was stood in the local election for the Green Party, for the Liberal Party, for Labour once. He's an autistic man. He hasn't been diagnosed. We've only just really sort of looked at him and gone, oh, of course he is, since I was diagnosed. But he struggled with reading and writing at school. He was the same. He ended up being a manual labourer for his entire life, but he reads music. He plays a brass instrument. He conducts brass bands. He taught all of us how to read music. He's got the most patience of any man I've ever met. My mum taught him how to read and write. He's constantly writing to the local paper and the local council. He's very much in his you know, in his town, he's done extraordinarily well, considering he was written off. And there's loads of people like my dad, and there's just loads of people out there that have got all these beautiful hidden talents that aren't being nurtured, that aren't been even taken seriously, and therefore people aren't thriving into the person they were born to be. And we've got to change it. We've got to change it.
Again, because the recognition of this has been bastardized by that same neoliberalistic media, in that you got a talent, get on Britain's Got Talent, you know, sing, and it's all about then make the money, make the career. It's like, no, why can't we have endeavors that we just fucking enjoy, things that make our heart sing, as you spoke of before, things that bring a tear to our eye, that fire the vagus nerve, that get you like that hyper, I'm getting just fiery thinking of it, that connect you with life. Yes. Why can't we prioritize that? Why isn't there, you know, workers' right? We had May Day the other day. Workers' rights fought for 8 hours of rest, 8 hours of work, 8 hours of recreation. Where is the prioritization of recreation? I can't even say it now. But in the public sphere. So now if to go outside costs money. You've got to pay the public transport to get into the area. Then you can't sit anywhere without first purchasing something at an inflated rate. Then you've only got the restaurants which want you in and out for your cash. You got the cinema, same. Everything is just in and out. Sorry,
somebody, can I just say, I'm listening to you. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Somebody's arrived, because I said that it was going to be 11 o'clock, this conversation. I'm going to have to let her in, and then we can continue, but I will have to go soon enough. I'm so sorry to have interrupted what you said. That's really very, very bad of me, but she's going to knock, and it's going to disturb us anyway. Yeah, so give me a sec. Sorry.
Yeah.
Can I just say, there was something that you just mentioned, the vagus nerve. Well, I've never heard of that.
So it's the vagus nerve. It's a cluster of nerves. I think I read it as it's the most dense cluster of nerve endings sort of in the body, like where they intersect.
Where do they intersect?
It's sort of this area. Yeah. So you know when you're about to cry and you get this welling. And it like
I feel everything here. I feel everything here.
And it tingles. You get the sensation, and then your hair starts to stand on end. So you feel it radiates from here, then down through your body, and usually then your eyes start to well up. I get it as you get I get a density in the head. And it's a firing of it, like down this emotional center, and you're having an emotive response to it.
Oh, I love that, because that's where I feel everything. I feel everything here.
It's connected in the same way of like the butterflies and things like this. Our bodies, we're starting to understand that actually the body sends more signals to the brain than the other way around. So modern consensus science forever has said, you are your brain. Everything is here because obviously our eyes are here. So we assume that everything is here. Yeah. But actually we're starting to understand about like endogenous production of, say, DMT in the gut and of other neurotransmitters. We're understanding about cannabinoids as well, interacting with the endocannabinoid system, and there's a larger system that interacts with. And so we're really starting to get to this point of understanding these neural signals, and that we have these other senses. You know, in society, we have the sixth sense. But it's not. We have somewhere closer between 20 and 30. We have all sorts of different senses that we're not educated on, and we're not taught to work on. And
well, to tap into, I think that the thing is that we're not taught to tap into them. I mean, in my after my breakdown, which made me stop for the first time in my long life, and in the stopping, I'm listening to everything. I'm aware of everything. And that's why I say it feels like a spiritual awakening in a way, because I suddenly I used to say things like, you know, all the answers are within you and all these things. I think, well, what the fuck does that mean? But it's true. And I'm starting to actually physically and intellectually know that. And it's so beautiful and exciting, and we all have access to it.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I suppose I kind of dissed Christians earlier, but some of their theology, pretty good writings. You know, I think Charlie Chaplin quotes it in The Great Dictator speech, and he's like, there's a quote: "The kingdom of God is within you." And if we define then God as what we spoke of before, then exactly that. It is that we, from within, we manifest. It is from within. I know it's easier to state that in whatever mindset you're in, but it is ultimately it's your individual actions each day that then build to that betterment of your life. You know, it is the routines that we live. It is the way that we express ourselves, the way that we communicate, and it is not just to others. Ultimately, that is all first internal.
Yes.
If it's the cliche again, all of these cliches. First, you got to love yourself, and I don't mean like buy yourself flowers and bath, but if that's your thing, if you cliche of whatever, but it is this finding a relationship, cultivating a relationship with yourself.
Yeah, because we are taught that to take care of oneself is to be selfish. That's what we're taught. Well, in some households, maybe. I don't know. It depends on how you were brought up, I guess. But
predominantly, again, that's back to that kind of neoliberalistic patriarchal structure that you are here to make us money. You are part of the system. If you're off sick, even, you know, that's the term. If you're not at work, you're off sick. So you're sick. What is sick then? If you look at the terms that are then used there and the implications there. So it is this, all of these things kind of come back to, are you a useful, constructive, tax-paying consumer in this country? Yeah. And anything that doesn't fit that thin narrative is otherized, demonized. One of the things that you spoke of before that you said have been in completely the wrong industry. I think that everybody goes through their trials and tribulations. We all kind of, we earn our identity. We forge ourselves in the fires of existence. And I think
we do.
You came out of that fire with a platform, with people that, when I said, I've got Melanie Sykes on the podcast, they went, fucking Melanie Sykes. I went, yeah. You know, it was, so there are people that know you, that have seen you, that again, television and modern media up until about 5 years ago was the main staple of most people's media diet. Now, as we're saying, it's diversifying into other broadcasting and podcasting, etc. But yeah, I think exactly that. You've awoken to a platform in the same that others have, to be able to then go, well, hey, I'm having this experience. Are you? And humanizing it and actually just going, well, this is me. This is my shit. Owning it. And I think that empowers others to then go, I can own my shit. Hey, guys, I don't think the way you do. I live this way. I secretly do this. And we, instead of living our private lives in our cages at home or in the sanity of our sanctuary, of our phones, we can proudly share with others. Going, oh, have you seen this obscure anime I like from Korea? Have you seen this new cooking channel that I found on YouTube? Or I really like watching people pop zits on TikTok. Have you seen this? Or like just whatever it is, just sharing those human experiences with others without the fear of being otherized or felt to feel weird or different.
I had it in as I was doing a show. I did MasterChef, which actually actively got rid of any desire and love I had for cooking, just because of the way that program is made. And I was in the green room with all the other people and everybody was seemingly all right. And I was tortured by the experience. I fucking hated it because they would shame you for the things that you didn't know and ridicule you for the things that you did know. So it was a horrible experience, all for edit and making it what they wanted to make afterwards. But I'm a human being and I'm a sensitive human being as well. And it was really horrible. And on about the second, third sort of round of it, I actually was in the green room and I just said to everybody, are you all enjoying this? Because I'm not. And a few people were like, actually, do you know what? No. And this happened and this happened and this happened. And I'm like, thank fucking God, man. But it took me to say, is it me? Or is this like really not right?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? We're all taught fables as children, one of which is obviously a parable by Jack Herer with, and he used as the title of his book, of The Emperor Wears No Clothes. You know, it's the one child that points to the emperor, he's naked, and everyone else goes, oh, we can see he's naked. It's the same thing. It's that fortitude, that curiosity, that bravery, that boldness. That is humanity. That is quintessentially, if we could bottle it and sell it to people, not even sell it, give it away, just get it into people's hands. There is no wrong answers. There is no correct participation. There is no wrong in this sense. You are human. Your experience and your existence, anyone that otherizes you, belittles you, or wrongs you is manifesting and projecting their own insecurities and their own cage upon you.
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely right. And I've always had this capacity, even though I felt sort of at the whim of others and at the whim of everything that's going on around me. I've always managed to find a little bit, when push comes to shove, I know to stand my ground, not necessarily in romantic relationship and not necessarily in other personal relationships, but very much at work. I have been able to have some boundaries. I mean, even as far back as working with Des O'Connor, you know, the channel would take for ages to tell us if we were coming back in September, and we had lives to plan and we had children to look after and we had a world of our own to deal with, and they would have us hanging on a string. And I got cross once and I was like, for God's sake, can you just bloody tell us? And Des was like, go on, because he would never have done it. He would never have done it. And he thought my relationship with him was something special, but it was also, you know, bloody challenging at times, because I saw him more than I saw my husband. He was like my second husband, who drove me mad sometimes, but I'm sure I drove him mad as well. But he used to really champion me, because he'd be just like, look at her, she just fucking says it, she's so true. And I've always had that capacity. I just think now, going forward and after diagnosis and after everything that's happened, I will only do that. That is all I'm going to do. And, you know, if you disagree with what I'm saying, that's fine, but you don't attack me about it. I don't need to be attacked. I'm only saying good things.
We're challenge and have a conversation. This is the other side. If you disagree with something, folks, try and challenge it in some way. And I know it's difficult if it's then somebody on the TV and you can scream at your telly, I suppose, but there are other ways to challenge it. Start a discourse with others so you can vent that frustration in creative ways and learn better positions. If you need to learn tolerance on it, or if you need to learn a new fact or change your position, or even just accept your position. We don't all have to agree, nor are we ever going to.
No, we're not. Absolutely not. And I think we should just need to be kind to our fellow men, because everybody's going through something. And I think empathy and just taking time and taking a breath and just being kinder, I think is going to help the world massively, isn't it?
I think there's a line from the quite controversial Dave Chappelle special where he speaks of his transgender friend Daphne, and she says, standing up to a show, that I am having a human experience. And I think that line resonated with me so powerfully. Amazing. And still does, because that's what we have to remember to each other. Nobody's got it fucking right. We're all faking this shit. Some of us may be further forward with little aspects of our lives, but are dragging in others. We don't all put our air our dirty laundry in public. We don't use social media to actually accurately represent our lives. We're all flawed. We're all fallible. And we're all fucking wonderful, frankly. I don't care about, you know what I mean? It's the fact that you are here is something. And if you can identify why that is, it will benefit you and everyone around you and the rest of society. But if we start to lose people, no matter how many, I see one lost life to any corner of this, to an injustice of a system that says this is a reality. No, you draw the confines at the boundaries where human experience is. And then if it changes, you draw the boundaries again and again and again. You do not pigeonhole, destroy, belittle, and demonize people for being people. Just
absolutely, man. I love it. That's so beautiful. Yeah, it's wrong. It is totally and utterly wrong. And that's just such a beautiful way of putting it.
Yeah, I'm quite aware of time.
Yeah, so time. No.
We're going to move quickly from philosophy. Can I go on to 2 points?
Yes.
You said about always speaking the truth. So this leads on to, you've started a new magazine, which I introduced as a lifestyle magazine that supports women and fights for health of the planet. Could you give us a bit of an oversight about that, and will you be bringing this fire to it? Okay,
so I started the magazine 3 years ago. It was actually a friend of mine suggested that I started a magazine, and I thought, do you know what, I'll do it for women in their 40s, and we called it Frank because I wanted to be honest and straightforward and just talk about things that, I don't know, we just talk about everything and anything, and I set it up, and it's been a real crazy journey. But it's now a website. It's all about it's about climate change and changing the way we live. And like everybody says, it's too big, it's too big a problem. What can we possibly do? Well, we can do something every single day. It doesn't matter how small the change is. We can all actively be involved with slowing down the demise of the earth. And so it's there. It's doing its thing. I am doing so many other things at the moment, so I'm having somebody help me with it. But basically, it's just to advise people on to have a greener existence and talk about women's issues. And now I've opened it up to all women because I just believe every woman's voice is important, regardless of age. So I've broadened it, but I've got to inject more. I need some journalists writing for us, and I need to be more political on it as well. And we just, at the moment, it's very soft. It's not frank. It's getting there, but it's a work in progress, man. It's, I've always been this person that always thinks I need to know something before I know it. I need to achieve something before I've done the work. Well, this is a growing concern. And it will get fortified to what it is that I actually want it to be, which will be an extension of my beliefs, which are shared by many. And like your beliefs and like your platform, it's like that for me. You know, I want to steer people. If you're going to buy, if you have to buy, because I haven't bought anything new. Even everything I wear is secondhand. Everything I wear is charity shop. I don't buy anything new anymore unless it's been made with hemp, unless it's been made ethically. And I'm just guiding people out of the consumerism that they think that is normal, which shouldn't be. I'm just trying to do my bit, Simpa, really.
Yeah. No, it sounds it. It sounds it, and it's using new media, to speak again in the parlance of our times, to connect with your quite, I suppose, traditional audience. I think obviously one of the reasons you probably had to extend it from 40 to 50 is your age. Is that ticked over?
No, I meant to 20. I mean, I'm 20-somethings voices. Yeah. No.
But I know, I'm just joking. No joking.
Oh, but I was 40 I was 40-something when I started it. But yeah, you're right. It was 40 and above. You know, it was the over 40s. Now it's just all women, because all women's experiences are important to me, and the fight against, I mean, the stuff around the police, the misogyny in the police. I mean, that's another thing that, you know, a friend of mine, Christina O'Connor, took a policeman to court for most misconduct, sexual misconduct, and he was found guilty on all 7 counts, but was still allowed to keep his job and his position in the police force. And I mean, it's conversations like that I want to keep out there, keep talking about them, because when they say one bad apple, what a load of bollocks. It is a culture. People sign up for that force to abuse the power. They do. Of course they do. Yeah. Not all, but, you know, don't tell me it's just 1 or 2 guys, because it's not true.
Statistically, I mean, check out, I think it's Your Gov Hates You, which was set up by Outlaw on Instagram. He's posting any and all of the statistics, and when you look at this as they come out, we had Neil Woods on the podcast recently, and we discussed this with the extension of the new police laws and what that's going to mean for further protection of the police. And it's a wee bit terrifying. So it's good to know that people like yourselves are going to be championing and looking at this, because again, it's we champion best, I think, from experience and from our knowledge. And I think you've had quite a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge within the public sphere, how it operates, how it works, and to be able to draw attention to that, I think, again, then it helps collectively heal our wounds that the construct of media has inflicted upon us as individuals, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, and also in terms of the police stuff as well. I mean, I know I was arrested. I was accused of beating up my second husband, and I was arrested. And that night, I took the caution to get home to my children. I didn't really understand what it meant. I knew it was the quickest way out of there, and that's what I decided to do. And I've spoken about that to the Times, because I realised, and I was told by Women's Aid, and I was working with Women's Aid, that they, more often than not, the women are taken to the police station because the gaslighter is so convincing. Because I thought I was alone in that, but it's really common. And it's just highlighting those things and those traumas and the injustice of those things hopefully will help others, you know, and that's, again, really important to me going forward.
Yeah, I think I've got one more question, but my final sort of point on Yeah, on that sort of situation is that basically then if you observe the misogyny of the culture, that creates a perception of situations. So when they arrive at a situation and they are given a narrative, they are more likely to believe the calm narrative than the cliched, air quotes, hysterical woman that is still a prevalent figure in the archetype of misogynistic individuals.
It's in the language of medicine as well. I remember having I used to have achy throat a lot, achy throat, and that is communication, that I wasn't speaking my truth, and that's where that achy throat came from. And I'd had an endoscopy and all sorts of things, and the doctor finally said it was hysteria something. I can't even remember the name of it.
Even still, using it in modern
They're still using it. Well, I don't know about now, but that was about 10 years ago, and it was it was hysteria something. I can't even remember the name of it, but I just remember thinking, fuck that. That was an emotional block because it wasn't physical.
Well, then, hopefully your magazine will help give voice to other women so they don't end up sort of experiencing the same. One last point I did want to grab is obviously you became an ambassador for MedCan. Sort of the idea of prescription cannabis, which has obviously been illegal in the UK for 3 years now, although only accessed by about 15,000 people. Is this a cause that Frank will be championing?
Yeah, well, me and Frank are the same, really. But yes, I don't feel like I'm doing enough for them at the moment, is the truth of it. But I believe that what they're fighting for is important. My attention was drawn to cannabis in this way because I'd watched a documentary called Weed the People, which was an American documentary about cancer patients and people going through all sorts of horrible sort of life-threatening things and the effect that cannabis was having and the science behind it, and it blew my mind, man. I was just like, wow, this is incredible. And then I was introduced to the guys at MedCan, and it just felt like I wanted to help them, but I'll do more. It's just been time, and also I've had a lot going on personally, but it's so important that fight continues so we can start healing people and not poisoning people with chemicals, simply. So I don't know what we'll be doing going forward, but I am very much there for them if they need me to talk about it or to voice my solidarity with their cause.
I think as you sort of spoke of before of seeking a prescription yourself, I think then the media is going to jump on that almost immediately and go, oh, Melanie Sykes, she's on the left-handed cigarettes. You know what I mean? They're going to make up something or whatever their acronym, not acronym, but you know what I mean? The actual, if they pick up on it, then good, because people will see me daily. People will hear me and know that this is it and this is me, and there's nothing wrong with me. And I need to be able to medicate a little bit to help me function, and because I've got a lot I want to do, So I was just going to say, and exactly that. It's that people, it's best in that sense, because everyone go, oh, let's watch her downfall, and everyone, she's still active. She's still exercising. She's doing this new thing. She's doing this. Bloody hell, man. She's not throwing away her life. She's not a druggie. I'm bored now. Next thing. That's what, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm sure I'll disappoint many, but you know what? I need to take care of me. So, I run and own my life for me and my children, and that is it. Everybody else, you do you, I'll do me. If anything I say resonates, then yeah, brilliant, part of the army. If not, fine too, off you go. I don't mind. I just have to be authentic. I can't live lies. It hurts too much.
Yeah.
And that's just really where I'm at right now.
I think that will resonate massively with a lot of people, that living your truth, no matter how that manifests, majority of the time will actually be quite juxtaposed to what you thought your life was going to be. But if it feels right, if you sleep at night, if you have connections, if you have love in your life, if you have curiosity, then trust me, you're doing something right. You know what I mean? Don't chase the ambition, folks. Your ambition should be to better yourself, not measure yourself. Oh, this guy, look at this guy. Oh, this guy. Oh, this guy. None of that shit. So I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I'm quite aware I've taken a slight bit more of your time than I intended to, but I'm much grateful.
Oh, no, darling, it's a pleasure. It's really good to talk to you, and thank you so much. Good luck with everything.
Thank you very much. I will let you jump off now. I'll do the housekeeping so you can go and...
okay, all right, darling. Will you send it to me when you've done it?
I shall indeed. I will send
And when are you thinking of publishing or whatever you...
Should be out next Monday, which will be... I can't even see what date that is. That will be the 9th.
Okay, cool. All right, darling. Take it easy. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure and a privilege.
Bye, sweetheart.
Bye, Melanie. Bye.
Bye.
Well, there you go, folks. That was Melanie Sykes. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I had a very good conversation. I think we covered some wonderful subjects and topics. I think it was great to touch on sort of the concept of celebrity and to hear that firsthand from somebody and to hear personally, I guess, for myself, somebody else experiencing some of the things that I guess I have in life and being a bit further on in a journey that I myself am, I guess, tentatively taking the first steps of. I guess that's kind of news to your ears. So there you go. A little bit of insight into the Simpa Life. I think I've named my podcast that. Anyway, I've thoroughly enjoyed that. Please do, if you did indeed as well, check us out on patreon.com/the Simpa Life, where for less than a cup of coffee or even more, you can help me continue to build the rest of my studio, which you may have noticed I've got green paint still somewhere. I've been seeing it flash. This is the lovely green the new walls will be. Sort of bit of advertising there, subliminal advertising. But yeah, check us out on all social media platforms. I am going to go probably not drink another cup of coffee, thanks to Melanie reminding me that probably not the best thing to continue to keep consuming ad infinitum, which is what I've currently been doing. All right, peace and love, folks. I will be back next week with somebody. Peace.